Alright, hello guys, how's it going? Welcome to another video. So, I've been contemplating for a while whether or not I wanted to make this video, and I'm still not sure I want to upload it after I record it, but I decided I'm going to at least record it and see what happens. But I wanted to just kind of give my input on the new Netflix series 13 Reasons Why. It's based off of the novel by Jay Asher, I believe is the author. But anyway, it's titled 13 Reasons Why. If you haven't seen the show or you haven't read the book and you don't know the story, I totally recommend you either buy the book and read the book or go to Netflix and watch the show. It's such a good show. It's such a good story, and I love it so much. So, just real quick disclaimer, there most likely will be spoilers in this video, so if you have not seen the show, and you have not read the book, and you don't know what the story is, and you don't want it to be spoiled, stop watching right now, because more than likely there'll be spoilers in this video. Alright, so with that said, I'm going to just start by, first of all, saying that I really loved the show. It's such a good show. It's really good. It's such a good story. The acting was good. The direction was good. Just everything about it was good. And it felt natural. It felt authentic. And it felt true to what the story was, which is what I know they were trying to go for. The producers and the director and the actors were trying to go for. They were trying to go for authenticity. And they pretty much nailed it. So let me just give kind of a brief little just a brief little summary of like kind of what the story is about. So it follows I believe he's a junior in high school, high school boy named Clay Jensen, who receives these 13 audio tapes from his friend Hannah Baker, who committed suicide just a few weeks later, or a few weeks earlier. And each tape is about a different person, but you don't know which tape is yours. So you can't skip right to your tape. You have to watch them all in order and then pass it on to whoever is after you. So if you're tape number 8, you have to pass it on to number 9, number 10, so on and so forth until you get to 13. But then there's no written direction for what happens after the 13th person has written the tape, which I'll get to later. So he puts in the first tape, and he's like, there's no way. This is a fake recording. I mean, I don't know if he thinks it's a fake recording, or if someone's playing a joke on him. I don't know what he's thinking at this point, what his thought process is, but, so, oh gosh, I don't even know what I want to discuss here. So, Clay's character is kind of interesting. So let me describe his character a little bit. So he at first is okay, everything's fine, you know. He goes from like sadness, just kind of depressed sadness, to just an extreme pissed off mood. He's just mad at the world. To more of, instead of being mad at the world, he's mad at himself. So then he's kind of in self-denial. And then he just goes to a, we need to fix the problem for future generations, for future people, so this doesn't happen again. So his mood really just shifts a lot from the first tape all the way to the end of the 13th tape, and even into the 14th tape that he recorded, which we'll get to later. So, one of my favorite things about the show is the choice of actors. Every actor fit the role, and you could almost believe that the actor was the character. Like if you met Clay out on the street, you could, or even if just hearing the name Clay Jensen, you could just picture that actor in your mind. And of course you're probably thinking, well, of course you're saying that because you just watched it and that's the only experience you have. But even before, like if someone would have told me the name Clay Jensen and like describe the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the name Clay Jensen, describe the person that comes to mind, I would have described something very, very close to what he looks like and what he acts like. And it's like that for a lot of characters, and it just really adds to the authenticity, and I love it. It's so good. Now, the story changes quite a bit from the original book, or at least I've been told. I haven't read the book. I've only read like the first chapter. But I've been told there's quite a few changes, and from the changes that I understand, I think they're good changes. Again, I haven't read the book, so I don't know. But one big change, and I'm going to spoil something here, one big change was the way that Hannah actually dies. In the book, she dies by just overdosing on medicine. They completely changed that in the movie, or in the show. And I don't know exactly why. Maybe it was to add to the drama, add to the authenticity. I don't know why. But they take it from overdosage to cutting her wrist with a razor blade and bleeding out into a bathtub. So, you know, very two different sides to the story. And I don't know which one would have been better in the case of the show or in the case of the book, but I do like the ending. I do like the way they set it up. So the story, it's kind of a hard story to follow because there's so many flashbacks and so many different things that Clay is thinking that happened in his mind, but they don't actually happen in real life. And I'll give one of those examples right now. So Clay goes to a basketball game. Basketball shot goes out in the audience, and there's a guy there. I don't remember who it was. I think it was either Tyler or Justin. I don't know. But anyway, he really doesn't like this guy, and he just wants to take the ball and chuck it at him and hurt him, like, really bad. And it shows in his mind him thinking about doing that. But then all of a sudden you see the camera back off. There's a little effect that happens. And then it shows him still holding the ball, and he's just standing there with it. So you realize that, oh, that just happened in his mind. So it makes the plot a little hard to follow. And that happened a little bit more than maybe I would like. But it worked. It worked. It was really good. And, oh, let me mention this point while I'm thinking about it. One thing that normally would bother me about the show is the not necessarily overuse of cussing, but just the fact that it is used in general. But I didn't mind it for this show because they were going for authenticity and because they wanted it to be true to what it is in real life and what it's like in real life. There's going to be some language that's thrown out just because that's how humans are. So it added to the authenticity, and I really, really like it. I think it helped the show come together, and it helped the authenticity of the show, and it made it more believable. So with that said, I don't think it was overused by any means. I think there was just a perfect amount for it to be acceptable. There was an acceptable amount. I don't dare say perfect amount because there really isn't a perfect amount. I mean, in my opinion, no amount is a perfect amount, but it was an acceptable amount. It wasn't overdone. It wasn't over the top like some shows would have done, like some producers would have done with the show. So I do think that it was very acceptable, and I'm not really mad about it. I'm not really mad about it. But I will say this, when I first started watching the show and listening to the show, and it started doing that, I was like, oh no, it's going to be one of these kind of shows where they cuss every 5 minutes, or every 5 seconds, rather. It really wasn't like that. It was true to what life would be like. And it was really, really well done. So anyway, one of the other interesting things that happens at the end, one of the other interesting things I think is that after you see Hannah die, her parents come into the bathroom, or her mom comes in first, and sees her laying out there in the water, filled with blood, and she's like, she's kind of in denial. She's like, it's going to be alright, it's going to be okay, we'll get you to the hospital, we'll get you cleaned up, everything will be alright. She calls her husband, he comes in, and he's like, no, this did, and he knows that it's not gonna be all right. He knows that she's dead. So he's just like, no, 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 and of course, no would be an appropriate response. But it's like you see two different reactions from the same parent of the same child at the same time, and it really gives you a little bit of insight into the parents' characters. And then they spend the whole entire series, the whole entire season, rather, trying to figure out what caused that to happen, what events led up to that moment. And I really like the way they laid it out. Instead of starting with the scene where she dies and then saying this is what led up to it, she says, this is what led up to this point in the show. So all of this caused this to happen, instead of this happened and this is why it happened. Instead of going, here's the effect, here's the cause, they go, here's the cause, here's the effect. Such a good way to lay it out. And I wasn't expecting that. When the camera first comes on and you see all the notes and stuff taped to her locker, you're thinking that the next scene is going to be what happened to her. It's not. That doesn't come until 12 and a half hours later. But it's good. I like it. Anyway, so let's talk about whether or not I think there'll be season 2. So the end of season 1, what Netflix calls season 1, whether or not there's going to be another season, we don't know yet. But the end of the season kind of leaves lots of unanswered questions. So there's lots of different pathways they could go about doing if they wanted to make a second season. Which there has been quite a bit of speculation over whether or not there will be a second season. And personally, I'd like to see a second season. It's a really good show. I will say the show is not for everybody. I do recommend you watch the show. At least watch the first 2 or 3 episodes, see if it's something you're interested in, and see if you want to watch more, because it's definitely not for everybody. It's not an easy show to watch. It's kind of difficult to get through, especially when you get toward the end, 11, 12, 13. It becomes a lot harder to watch, but it's very, very well done. So good. I loved every second of it. And see, the thing is, when I first finished the show, I finished it last night, and when I first finished it, I was like, it really didn't have an exposition. But now that I go back and think about it, it really does have an exposition. The exposition was in the other 12 episodes, the other 12 tapes, before you get to tape 13, before you find out what happened. So it's just a whole bunch of exposition. And it's setting you up for that moment, which I've kind of already briefly touched on, but I do now realize that it's just all pretty much exposition, but it's really good. Anyway, back to whether or not I think there'll be a season 2. I honestly do. I think there'll be a season 2. And it does not hurt my feelings. I would really like to see a second season. And one of the ways I'd kind of like them to go with it is to... Because some people are saying they might change the story, use the same actors, but change the story. I honestly don't want them to do that. I want them to keep the same actors, keep the same story, but just further expand on the story. Because you have that whole idea of, like, the lawsuit against the school, and you don't know what happens with the lawsuit. So, they could go off into a whole other story about what happens with the lawsuit, how the verdict turns out, what happens. Because now Hannah's parents have the tapes. Tony gave them a copy of the 14 tapes. So I think it would be kind of cool to do kind of the same thing they did with Clay and kind of show their reaction to the tapes, which is a very likely way for them to go. But there were also speculations about maybe changing the actors and changing the storyline, and I really don't want them to do that. Changing the characters, changing the storyline, no, I really, really don't want them to do that. I think it would really hurt the show. Because, like I said, one of my favorite things about the show is the characters and the actors. They did a very, very good job casting the show. But whatever they end up choosing, if they do make a season 2, I'm definitely going to watch it, no matter what they end up choosing to do with it. So, I do think you should go watch at least the first 2 or 3 episodes if you haven't seen them already. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. I loved every second of it. It took me about 3 days to finish. I started Thursday afternoon, and I finished Saturday night. It is really, really good. I've enjoyed every second of it. And I went into it not knowing anything about it. One of my friends told me I needed to watch it. I was like, you know what? My show that I'm watching right now, which I'm watching Last Man Standing, really good show. If you haven't seen it, you should go watch it. But that's neither here nor there. But anyway, it's like, yeah, I'll try it, because my show right now that I'm watching is on a season change. They're going from season 6 to season 7. And I'm not even sure if they will have a season 7, so it might even be completely canceled, but I doubt it. So I was like, yeah, I'll give it a try. Give me something new to watch. Oh, so good. So good. I'm really glad it was recommended to me, because it was so good. But I recommend you all go check out at least the first 2 or 3 episodes. If you want to keep watching all the way to 13, do it. Go for it. It's so good. Anyway, I know this video is quite a bit different, but I don't know. I thought it was really good. And I wanted some variety on the channel, so there you go. There's variety. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, and you're new to the channel, be sure to hit the like and the subscribe button. Help me a lot. Thank you guys. See you in the next video. Bye-bye, guys.